Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Headbanger's Closet. Appreciate everybody checking out the channel. So this video is going to be, I guess, the third installment of a kind of like a series I guess I've been doing over the past couple months. It's just going to be albums, I grew up listening to. I did the first two videos a few weeks ago, a month ago, whatever. And, started with like the early 80s and I got up to 1985, finished the year 85. And these were all albums that I kind of grew up with. Bands I discovered on MTV or whatnot, or saw the videos for and became a fan, so I bought the record. This video, like I said, is going to be the third one, and it's the 86 and 87 years. And a couple of big things about these 2 years is, number one, I was a little older, like 86, late 86, I was turning 11, late 87, I was turning 12. So I was at that age, I had a neighborhood job cutting grass for some of the people in the neighborhood and shoveling snow from their driveways. I had a weekly allowance, so when it comes to collecting, I was able to get a little bit more to add to my collection, kind of build the start of my collection. So a lot of these records I'm going to show you today are the actual ones I bought at the stores when I was a kid. So like I said, this is going to be 86 to 87. Big deal with the late spring, early summer of 1986. Just some huge records in metal and hard rock and heavy metal came out at that particular time. And another interesting thing about these 2 years is at the tail end, and it'll be the last couple records I show, my taste in metal was getting a little bit different. I was getting into some more of the heavier bands that I didn't really discover until 87. So just the criteria for this, these albums either had to have come out in that time period, whether I was already a fan of that band or just became a fan of that band when it came out, or albums I actually discovered. They might have come out earlier, but I discovered the album or band in that particular time frame, 86, 87. So let's get right to it. Without further ado, the first one, and we're going to go chronological order from 86 to 87. The first one is Judas Priest's Turbo. Came out April 14th, 1986. And I showed British Steel in my first video, and then the second video I showed Defenders of the Faith. I was already a big Priest fan, and I know they were more of traditional heavy metal, new wave of British heavy metal, where a lot of the stuff in that time frame while I was growing up was the hair bands. To me, I never had any distinction between the two. There was never a term hair bands for me back then. That really didn't come into my vocabulary until like the 90s. So to me, it was all heavy metal. Yeah, I could tell it was obviously faster and heavier than a lot of the other stuff, but I loved it nonetheless. And Turbo, I thought it was a great record. The video, I was a big MTV kid. That's kind of why I started this series. A lot of what I discovered and a lot of bands I discovered, rather, were because of the videos on MTV, and I just became a fan of those bands. And although Judas Priest wasn't necessarily a band I discovered off MTV, me becoming a huge fan was MTV was a big part of that reason why. So the video I remember was Turbo Lover. Thought it was a really cool video. Then Parental Guidance. If I'm not mistaken, that video was taken from the VHS home video that they released from that album. I thought both of those were awesome. And I didn't really get the hate for this band. I was kind of too young to even realize that their sound might have changed and they come a little bit more poppy, more commercial. I didn't honestly realize it till a little bit later. And I honestly believe that somehow, maybe in the mid to late 90s, that got in my head and I didn't like this album as much. But the older I get, the more I appreciate this record. I think it's absolutely amazing. Back then, I listened to Turbo Lover and Locked In and Parental Guidance. Those were the songs I went to on this record. But as I got older and started appreciating it more, songs like Private Property, Rock You All Around the World, Out in the Cold, that's such a great freaking song. I have so much more appreciation for this record now than I did back then. But really, really cool. Love the album. Lyrics with the inner sleeve. And again, I didn't really get the hate. I kind of, I got the reference right here growing up, but I mean, I just didn't get why some of the kids, in my school weren't really happy with this particular record because I thought it was great. And like I said, again, just, that idea getting in my head, making me like the album less as I got older, and then coming back full circle to this record again, in my later years. I just think it's an absolutely amazing record. So Priest Turbo Lover, April 14th, 1986. That's the first one. And like I said, I keep saying that phrase. I apologize. But that late spring, early summer of '86 was just huge for metal. And following that, you've got Poison's debut, Look What the Cat Dragged In, excuse me, May 23rd, 1986. I've said it before on this channel, and I'll say it again. I was a kid, man. I wasn't yet, May of '86, I wasn't yet 11 years old. And I thought these were girls. I really did. I thought they were girls. I knew that the bands I listened to, they wore a lot of makeup, and they did the hair and the hairspray, you know, the glam. It didn't matter. I still thought these were girls. And it wasn't actually until I saw the video, I believe the first video from this record was I Want Action. And then it was Talk Dirty to Me. I loved both videos. I thought they were great. It wasn't until I saw the videos that I realized that they were guys. But, I mean, great stuff. You know, I Won't Forget You. Awesome song. You know, Cry Tough. Actually, Cry Tough, I think, was the first single, but not the first video I saw. Obviously, the title track, Look the Cat Dragged In, Talk Dirty to Me, is probably my favorite song on the record. Want Some, Need Some, Blame It On You. #1, Bad Boys, awesome. Let Me Go to the Show was a song I played all the time because my mom would never let me go to the concerts back then. Again, I was 10, 11 years old, and I always used to play the song and crank it up and be like, yeah, Mom, let me go to the show. You know, Motley Crue coming around to Providence, Rhode Island. I wanted to go, but she wouldn't let me. But anyway, yeah, Poisons, Look What the Cat Dragged In, May 23rd, '86. Love this album. I think it's their best record. It's my favorite Poison record. I think it's but I also think it's the best one. It's a record. And really cool inserts that they got here. It's like a kind of like a top to bottom with the pictures and the lyrics. So really cool. Love Poison. You know, back in the day, my two favorite bands were Motley Crue and Poison. Those were the two bands that I thought were the head and shoulders above all the other bands. And, you know, I liked obviously a ton of stuff, but these two bands were the best ones, and still love this debut record from Poison. I think it's awesome. Moving right along, we have got Europe's The Final Countdown, which came out just a few days, like a week or so after the Poison record. Came out May 30th, '86. The big video, obviously, was The Final Countdown. Pretty cool video. They also had a video for Rock the Night, the ballad Carrie, and the song Cherokee, which is a pretty cool video as well. Those were the best songs on the record. I'm going to throw in there Danger on the Track. So Final Countdown, Rock the Night, Danger on the Track, and Cherokee are my favorite songs off the record. Honestly, this was like a one-hit band for me. One hit meaning one album. I didn't get anything else they put out. I don't even know if they put out anything else. I really liked this record, and I kind of just fell off the wagon with them after this. But, you know, big part of that time of my life, '86, '87, is the sleeve, you know, the lyrics and a picture of the guys. So, pretty cool. Yeah, Europe is one of those bands I think is cool. I'll listen to them every now and again if it comes on like an '80s metal playlist, but not a band like all the other bands in today's video. I go back and listen to them quite a bit. Europe is one I do not do that to, but I wanted to include it because it was a big part of that era for me with MTV, you know, in '86, '87. So the next record, again, continuing the tune of coming out in late spring, early summer of '86. You've got Cinderella's debut Night Songs, June 9th, 1986. I've talked about this record before on the channel. I know they get categorized as, you know, a hair band. I mean, come on, look at the photo of the guys. I mean, yeah, total hair, total glam. But musically, I thought these guys were a lot better than most of what was going on in that era. They just sounded heavier a little bit. The guitar tone I thought was better, and it was definitely a little bit more bluesy, which I thought was pretty cool. Here's the album on Mercury. Actually, this is the only album in this video that is not the original that I had. I actually had to buy this record, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago because my original I lost, and I bought it. It doesn't have the inner sleeve. It just has a generic sleeve for the record. So I'm going to have to upgrade this, try to find a better OG, but I had it and lost it. So anyway, moving right along, like mentioned earlier, Motley Crue is my favorite band, coming in at May 15th, 1987. Motley Crue's Girls, Girls, Girls. One of the reasons I wanted to do this video this week, today, is because this past week, 2 of the records that I'm featuring on this video had, you know, birthdays, and Motley Crue is one of them. Came out May 15th, '87, and you know, sometimes if you've been watching this channel, I like to tell a little story about the record, and you know, here's the sleeve. I don't really have too much of a story about this. It just came out at the tail end of my 6th grade year. There's the Elektra records right there. Pretty cool. I love Elektra Records labels. Anyhow, so I was in 6th grade, and my teacher was a young lady named Mrs. Riley, and she was just out of college. Like, this was her first teaching job. Got her teaching degree like that, spring prior. Over the summer, I got hired on as a 6th grade teacher in the school I was at, and she was my teacher. And what was really cool about her is she also watched MTV. She was also a rock and roll fan. Liked some of the stuff that was a little older, like early Def Leppard, which I thought was cool, like Cheap Trick, Journey, and bands like that. But what was cool is she could talk to us, me in particular, because I was the only headbanger in the class. She talked to me about bands that she saw on MTV as well, and I'd come into school and we'd talk about like the Dial MTV from the night before, and the Countdown and stuff like that. And she was really cool about kind of just connecting with me in that way. And when this album came out, I would put the cassette tape in my Walkman, and I'd have it on the school bus, just listen to it on the way to school, and then I'd get off the bus, and from where the bus dropped me off in front of the school to where my classroom was, I walked on the outside of the building, like the length of the school. And she was always out there kind of monitoring the kids on the on the playground before the bell rang, and she saw me walking. And she's like, what are you listening to? You've got this like strut in your step, and you look really happy. And I was like, oh, it's the new Motley Crue record. The song is Wild Side, and it's the new Girls, Girls, Girls album from Motley Crue. And she's like, oh, I really like them too. And we started talking about that, and like the rest of the year, we would talk about Motley Crue almost every day. So that's kind of the story I have. That's one thing I remember when I listened to this record. It's just back in the day, 6th grade, talking to my teacher about freaking Motley Crue, which I thought was cool. Maybe if I was like in 8th grade, there might have been like a hot for teacher situation going on there. But anyway, Motley Crue, Girls, 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 May 15th, 1987. Huge record for me. Like I said, Motley Crue is my all-time favorite band, which a couple of years later, they'd be surpassed by somebody else. I don't know if you guys can pick up who that might be. Yeah, they were my favorite band. Like, everything they put out to me was gold. Not a skippable track that they ever put out, from Too Fast for Love all the way to Dr. Feelgood. I loved everything they did, and this record was no different. Of course, you had Wild Side and Girls, 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 the two big videos. I thought the Wild Side video was amazing. The Girls, Girls, Girls video was cool, and my mom saw me watch it one day and was like, I don't really think I like you watching MTV anymore. And if I'm not mistaken, somebody in the comments let me know, but was this the video shoot that where Vince met his wife was like Cherie or something like that? I could be wrong. I should know this. I've watched The Dirt a few times. I've read the book, actually, years ago when the book came out. I think I read it 2 or 3 times in a row. I should know the answer to that question, but I kind of forgot. And just looking at the sleeve, the inner sleeve there with them at the table at the strip club kind of makes you, think, is that where he met her? But anyway, somebody let me know if you know the answer. Continuing with 87, we've got Dawkins, Back for the Attack, in November 2nd, 87. Big videos. Sorry about that. Big videos off this one for me was Heaven Sent. Loved the video. Loved the George Lynch solo scene where it's like at nighttime under a tree just soloing. It's like the silhouette of the moon. Looked really cool. But it's a great record overall. You've got Kiss of Death, Prisoner, Night by Night, the awesome instrumental Mr. Scary. It's a really, really great record from Dawkins. I've never seen the band live as a whole. I did see them about, I guess maybe 10 years ago, where Don came with the original drummer and the bass player. I think it was just the 3 of them. They had another guitar player filling in. They played up in Gwinnett, Georgia, at a place called the Wild Horse Saloon. Really, really cool set. I saw Tom Kiefer Cinderella there as well. But anyway, great set. Always wanted to see them reunited, and last June, almost a year ago, they were supposed to play at a place in Noonan, Georgia, and it was going to be all 4 of them, the original guys with George Lynch, obviously, and the place they were supposed to play got in trouble with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation because they were like embezzling employees' money or something like that, and they shut the whole place down. It was like a month before they were supposed to play. There was a couple of 80s hair metal bands that were going to play that summer. They shut the whole place down, canceled everything, and never got a refund on my ticket, and I never got to see Dawkins. But a great record, big fan of Dawkins. So that kind of brings me to the conclusion of some of the hair bands. I hate using that term, but some of the 80s metal bands I was listening to at the time and whose albums came out around that time, 86, 87. Now brings me to the part of the video I mentioned earlier where my taste at the end of this era of 86, 87 was kind of changing into a little bit more heavier stuff. And again, I didn't really differentiate, but I knew there was a difference between like the Motley Crues and the Poisons, and then like the Iron Maidens and Metallicas and Slayers, because like there was like two groups of kids that I was friends with, and you know, we all talked. If you had like a Motley Crue shirt on, some of the kids would call you a poser and make fun of you, and vice versa and stuff like that. Anyhow, so let's go to this one real quick, because this one also had a birthday this week. Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind. This one actually came out May 16th, 1983. Now, I didn't get into this when the album came out. I discovered this later, but this is a perfect example of the artwork reeling me in. The record store I used to go to back in the day was a place called Ann and Hope, and it was this massive 3-level factory, an old World War II munitions building, and they converted it to this giant department store. It was like a Walmart before Walmart was invented, and that's where we would go to buy groceries. You could buy groceries, you could also buy like bedding and everything. It was just a ginormous department store. So we'd go there every week to buy groceries. While my mom was going getting groceries, I'd go to the record section. And I always, as a kid, was young in the younger days, like the earlier '80s, I was leafing through the records and seeing the Iron Maiden artwork. The debut record, Killers, Number of the Beast, and thought it was awesome. But this one right here really grabbed my attention. Because of the straitjacket in the padded room. A lot of the jokes back in those days, I went to Catholic school, so it was like, if you don't behave, we're going to send you to the funny farm, and like, you're going to be in the padded room with the straitjacket at the funny farm. And so I really thought that was cool. Eddie, I kind of thought that was like the best artwork. It's still in my top like 2 or 3 for best Iron Maiden artwork. Here's the insert sleeve, the lyrics, the picture of the guys at the table. So anyway, I picked this up, and I'll kind of get to the story of when I picked this up here after the next record. So I was able to pick this up based solely on the actual album cover. I had heard Iron Maiden before, but I wasn't a big fan, and buying this album, and then, I guess maybe, really wasn't until I got to high school, I guess, that I started really listening to a lot of Iron Maiden and really becoming a big fan. But I bought this album, like I said, solely based on the artwork. This right here is the one I picked up at that store. You can see it's kind of beat up looking pretty good. I like it that way. I call it Loved. I played the hell out of it, but I didn't really know too much about him, but the artwork just drew me in. I knew I had to have it. I said at the beginning of the episode I had a little bit of a job, an allowance. I was able to spend more money. And so anyway, the last record, and this is where things are really starting to turn, was Metallica's Garage Days Revisited, the 598 EP. Came out August 21st, 1987, which is the day after my birthday. So that year for my birthday, I was turning 12, and I had some friends over for a birthday party, and a buddy of mine got the cassette tape for Garage Days, and he played it the entire time we were at the party. Hanging out, having hot dogs and hamburgers, and we went play wiffle ball, and we just kind of shooting basketball in the driveway there, and he had it playing on the boombox. And I was like, this sounds pretty cool. The song that really drew me in was a song called The Weight, and I had heard Metallica before, mainly from him. Played me Puppets, Fade to Black, From the Bell Tolls. I thought they were cool songs. Wasn't a huge fan of it, but this EP totally changed that. And this was kind of the start. Now, this is the start of me being a Metallica fan. Now, it didn't blow up into the obsessive, huge mega fan I am today until Justice came out, and I'll get to that story eventually, but this was the start of it, and I really, really dug this. This is a copy I picked up the day it came out, the day after my birthday. I went, took my birthday money to the store, bought this and Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind. Here's the on Elektra Records. I have since collected the UK first press, and then, of course, all the reissues on orange, black, picture discs that they redid maybe 6-7 years ago on Blackened Recordings. So, love this EP. I still think it's super cool. The artwork's awesome. Picture of the guys, in the shower there, and then everything else in the back. I love it. Helpless, my favorite song off the record. I will say my only criticism of it is I'm not a big fan of Green Hell. I love Last Caress. I kind of wish they just would have cut it there. Green Hell's cool and all. I think they do better Misfit song covers. So I just wish they would have cut it there. But overall, I think it's a super cool EP. And like I said, special place in my heart. The tail end of '87, that's when things kind of started to shift for me into the more heavier stuff. I started asking some of my friends about, hey, what's this band Slayer about? You show me some of this and stuff like that. Megadeth, bands like that. More Iron Maiden. Sepultura, getting into high school a couple years later, Sepultura was the big band a lot of the the headbanging kids were listening to. So things definitely changed for me, and like I said, the start of me being a huge Metallica fan right there. So anyway, 20 minutes in this video. I didn't mean to make it last that long, so I apologize. And if you watched it this far through, I really appreciate it. What do you guys think about these records? You have them, give me your thoughts, down below in the comments. Hit the like and subscribe, all that stuff. And find me on Instagram if you like. I just went and saw Creator, Death Angel, Sepultura, and Spirit World last night, so I'm going to kind of be doing my review of that show coming up, and I'll post pictures of the show on Instagram, so go follow me on that if you don't mind, Headbangers Closet. So yeah, appreciate everybody watching. I'll have another video for you guys very soon. Cheers.